Welcome to the Dynasty Academy. Michael Washington, Mark is being a pompous ass before we came on air, and Mark Ongst.
Well, I mean, you are. I'm not. I mean, you are.
Eli Manuel.
Why would you draft a wide receiver, too?
Eli, you can cut this out.
You can leave it in, too.
Restart.
Kyler Murray has a fantastic arm. It's just the decision-making for him, for me. Michael Vick just made better decisions, I feel like, overall.
Makes sense. I said 1 or 2 inches, growing 1 or 2 inches, and you're like...
And he's still going,
I have leagues on too many apps. I don't know what to follow.
Welcome to Dynasty Academy. I hope you guys got me now. There was a little bit of technical difficulties there. We all set?
We're
You
good.
guys got me? Mark, thumbs up? Yeah?
Gotcha.
You didn't nod. Eli
Yeah.
nodded. All right. We got the white man thumbs up.
I was
there.
said words. What do you mean?
You didn't say words. Don't even front with me. I'm Michael Washington. He's Mark. That's Eli Manuel. For you sleeper fans out there, that's Angsty and Naturally Different, and I'm Chewbacca. Tonight on Dynasty Academy, we're going to do a free agent recap. Mark and I did a little free agent preview last week, and we were off on almost everything. And we're going to do a little bit of recap this week and talk about the fantasy impact for the future. I have to say, though, real quick, before we jump into this free agent class was absolutely dreadful from a fantasy standpoint. I'm just going to throw that out there. It was dreadful. There wasn't a single impactful thing that happened other than... No. And so the rookie class is the part of this show that I'm really excited to talk about. But
Godwin was
some
impactful.
trades were made and whatnot. And who?
Chris Godwin.
Who was impactful?
Chris Godwin.
Godwin was not impactful. He just returned to Tampa Bay. That's not impactful.
Well, yes, it is. I mean, it's really good for him, and it impacts McMillan a little bit
great
because
for him, but
he's going to lose some targets.
I mean, McMillan will be okay once Mike Evans retires after this year, anyways. So
Sure, but that's impactful for the season.
I don't know. I guess it's impactful in the sense of like him returning is like I honestly don't think anybody expected him to return to Tampa Bay. I don't know about you. I knew there was a slim chance, but I didn't expect him to return to Tampa Bay.
I mean, I had a feeling because of his ties, but I assumed somebody would give him more money, which is the report. People were giving him more money. He chose to come back for less. And I think that's just he likes the area and has a lot of things going on in Tampa. So I assume he'll probably retire on this contract.
Yeah, I imagine that he probably would be close to it. I mean, he's what, 29, 30?
Yeah,
so
29, I believe.
He's at that age where he's at the point where, you know, if you're not a 1 now, you're probably not going to be a 1 ever. So, I mean, Evans has 1 year left on his contract, right? If I'm correct.
Yeah, I think it was a 2-year deal last year.
Last year. Yeah, last year. So.
Yes.
As well. Eli, first and foremost, welcome back. We're really excited to have you back. You were back a little bit ago and then had a few shows where you weren't there, but we're happy to have you back. So thank you for coming back. What's your take on the DK Metcalf situation and whether or not that's an impactful thing? It wasn't really a free agency thing, but a trade happened during free agency. A new team for him. Seattle kind of looks like Seattle actually didn't have a choice. I was reading a thing about dead cap space. I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but number 1 on that list is going to be San Francisco. Surprisingly, not surprisingly, but number 2 was Seattle. Number 2 was Seattle, which was a little surprising to me. And number 3 is Philadelphia. Believe it or not, those are your top 3 teams in dead cap money moving into 2025, and this was as of March 11th.
New Orleans? That's kind of surprising.
No, New Orleans was actually like 15th on the list. So, yeah. but this was as of March 11th. So DK Metcalf is probably part of that purge with the dead cap money to free up a little space. What's your take on him in Pittsburgh? Let's start there with it, because he's probably the most impactful piece of what we saw in the free agency aspect of as far as the wide receivers were concerned. Obviously, Godwin was impactful in the sense of him returning to Tampa Bay, but I think DK being on the move for a new team was pretty impactful.
I think it depends on what we see when quarterback pans out there. Good for JSN, maybe.
Yeah, I think
Wish that he was the guy that I had rostered more places, but Metcalf, Pickens, and possibly Rodgers.
Steelers fan. I'm in love with that idea.
I actually talked to one recently, and he thinks it's a good idea. I don't know if people are so hopeful about Rodgers, but I don't like that. Otherwise, I think DK stays right where he normally is. He's not going to be the best wide receiver in the league every single season. He's going to be in that 1,000, 1,200 yard range. He's going to catch some touchdowns.
Yeah. I just feel like him and Pickens are so identical. Like they're basically the same type of wide receiver. It's such a weird, dynamic. And you bring in a 42-year-old wide receiver, quarterback, hypothetically, or what everybody is expecting to happen. And he struggled to get the ball down the field last year. So I'm really not sure it's a good marriage for Pittsburgh. I think it actually hurts Pickens overall if you have Pickens on your roster, because those two are going to eat into each other so much. Personally, I think JSN's the winner, but then JSN had Sam Darnold throwing to him, and what do we know with Sam? What are we sure what's going to happen with Sam Darnold as far as the quarterback position is concerned in Seattle? So, Mark, I know tonight you had some questions that you wanted to bring up, and we'll do it in two parts. So save your draft ones for when we hit to the draft ones, but you had some free agent questions that you wanted to bring up to us here as well. I have not seen these questions. I know Eli has not seen these questions. So, and by the way, Eli, nice background. I like your background.
Very nice.
For anybody wondering, that is a real trade offer.
It's very nice.
That is
a real
one
trade.
that Eli received himself. It's not even from a random Twitter account. That is a real trade to Eli. Luckily, Michael,
go ahead. Good.
I put my questions broken up by those two things. I did them for free agency first, and then the ones I have for the draft after.
Yeah, even better.
Read your mind. All right, let's start with two wide receivers who possibly don't have a ton of fantasy relevance. We talked about them last week as one of the big four that were available. The Devontae Adams going to the Rams and DeAndre Hopkins going to the Ravens. Of those two, which one do you think will be more fantasy relevant this coming season?
This is going to be hard because I feel like one might be more involved with the offense, but I think the other might be more impactful in his opportunities. I'll say Devontae, but I wouldn't be surprised. This is like kind of riding the fence. I get it, but I'm going to say Devontae will probably be the more fantasy relevant one because the Rams went early to go get him and really made an offer that he really couldn't wait to see what Aaron Rodgers was going to do, if Rodgers was going to come to LA or not, because or where not LA, sorry, where Aaron Rodgers was going to sign to see if he was going to follow Aaron Rodgers to that spot. But yeah, I feel like that Devontae's probably they brought him in and they're going to release Cooper Kupp or they released Cooper Kupp for that reason. So I think Devontae will probably be a little more fantasy relevant. I would not be surprised, though, and the reason why I'm kind of riding the fence is if DeAndre Hopkins ended up with like more touchdowns to make him close in points. I feel like Baltimore's going to try to find creative. I feel like Baltimore's going to try to find creative ways to use him in the red zone. So,
Eli?
Adams. I think Adams for me. I think Adams has shown, not New York, but Adams.
nobody
what do you
really
want me to
showed
say?
much in New York last year.
Right. What do you want me to say? I don't know. Hopkins just did not look great, in my opinion, in Kansas City. The games that I watched, I think Adams is a better wide receiver overall. So
Yeah, at this point, I feel it's like Hopkins has lost.
he lost the step, the extra.
Yeah, compared
year.
to what he was, and Adams doesn't seem to have lost it. I mean, I blame most of that, I think, on Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
I think because when you saw him in Vegas, he looked just as dominant as he's always had. I think that Jets dumpster fire just sucked him in with it. All right. Speaking of Sam Darnold and the New York Jets, between Sam Darnold and Justin Fields, who is the quarterback who has a better fantasy season? Not a better season, a better fantasy season next year. Justin Fields or Sam Darnold?
I'll let Eli tackle this one first.
So you got Darnold with, one wide receiver right now, I guess.
Yeah, Jason. I mean,
Fields is the same.
I almost want to just go Fields for the rushing upside. But give me Darnold. I know the Jets have Brees. We got Garrett Wilson there. And that's it. So
Yeah.
JSN versus Garrett Wilson.
Mm-hmm. Kenneth Walker / Charbonnet for Brees. I think it's a very comparable situation. I don't know about the offensive line or anything like that, but
Sam Darnold. I can't pick the Jets.
Well, first and foremost, who did you pick, Mark, for the last question?
Yeah, you didn't.
You didn't answer.
Adams or not?
He kind of said Adams, yeah.
Oh, I guess you kind of said Adams. Yeah, I guess you could have said Adams. Yeah.
I agree with Eli. DeAndre just looks like he's really reminding me of that Julio Jones of like the last 3-4 years of Julio went from Tennessee.
Hopkins, when was the last actual full good season that Hopkins had?
Hopkins in, let's see here, 20.
It was in Arizona.
2022.
Well, 2023, he had 75 receptions for just over 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns. He averaged 13 fantasy points a game. Not a huge fantasy number. In 2022, he only played 9 games.
Right.
So he had a good fantasy year in sense of 17 points a game. Only 10 games in 21.
I would say 2023 though. I mean, 13 fantasy points a game, and chances are you're not drafting DeAndre Hopkins as your wide receiver 1 or 2. So that's a flex spot. I mean, you could get 13 points from your flex spot. Like I'd take that.
Yeah, I mean, it was good for
I'd
29th wide receiver, best wide receiver. So
just 10.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason why I even mentioned Hopkins, by the way, was just primarily the red zone. I just feel like he's going to be used in the red zone more. That's all. Obviously, I think Adams is going to probably beat him in reception yards. Man, this is hard because Darnold reunites with one of his offensive coaches from San Francisco.
Yep.
Justin Fields reunites with Garrett Wilson from the Ohio State days.
Oh, sure, yes. I was like, who?
So Justin Fields' biggest issues, I feel like, has been the fact that he's had he's been with two teams and two coaching staffs that just don't actually believe in him. If the Jets actually believe in him and want to give him a legitimate chance, then who knows what Fields can do? Because let's not forget, prior to last year, Fields did more with a worse team in Chicago than what Caleb did with a better team in Chicago. So Fields definitely has proven that he can win games. I mean,
the Jets
fantasy-wise, it may not have been. Go ahead.
I was going to say, the Jets seem to love and believe in Darnold, Zach Wilson,
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
sure.
I understand the Jets have a terrible track record with it. Aaron Glenn, coming from the Dan Campbell mold, if he holds that mold and tries to turn that franchise around, maybe. But I agree, Fields for the rushing upside. So I'm going to take Fields I'm going to take Fields just because of the rushing upside. Darnold had such a great year last year. I think it's going to come back down to earth, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm expecting a regression of some sorts, and these two, I would not be surprised if they ended up like one spot apart from one another in fantasy points. To be honest with you,
It's fair.
Yeah,
They don't exude confidence.
no, and like
both
I
situations
agree.
kind of suck too.
Well, Seattle's does because they're like in this weird possible rebuild, but I like the coaching staff and front office there.
Yeah.
In New York, I like the head coach. I'm not sure about the front office.
The front office is awful.
I'm not sure about the owner.
No,
So that's what makes me That's what makes me worried that, do we pull the plug on Fields quickly because we're the New York Jets and we're terrible? I really want to say Fields because I really like Justin Fields and think he's gotten a terrible chance in the NFL, where Sam, I think, has kind of done the Geno Smith thing. We were terrible. We went somewhere else for a little while, and now here we are.
But doesn't
and now we're replacing Geno Smith again.
Bears Steelers Jets is just like an unbelievable career arc.
It's an arc, that's for sure. I think I'm gonna pick Darnold for the just stability in Seattle, and think that. Now to segue perfectly into the two wide receivers of those two teams, because they're the only two really there at the moment worth anything. Between JSN and Garrett Wilson, who would you rather own in Dynasty at this point?
JSN.
Because
I'll answer it honestly. JSN.
I think Garrett is the better over wide receiver, but JSN I think has the better situation. So which in Dynasty would you prefer? JSN or Michael?
Same.
I don't know. I don't know if I would say that Garrett is a clear-cut better wide receiver than JSN. I want to say they're very. I think they're personally very fairly close. I would definitely give Garrett the slight edge. However, I don't know where Garrett is going to be after this year, because I don't know if he wants to be in New York, and I'm not even sure New York would even pay him if he wants to stay there. And I think JSN, like you were talking about the front office, I just trust the front end office better in Seattle to allow JSN to kind of be the guy as long as he continues to produce there, where I feel like the Jets would just kind of be like, oh yeah, well, you did well for us, but we could find somebody better. And next thing you know, they're paying Mike Williams all over again. So I think they're very close talent-wise, personally. I think I just trust JSN not having to go through a bunch of different head coaches and offensive coordinators and whatnot. So
Before
I
you
say
answer,
JSN.
Eli, I really like JSN. I think he's a wonderful wide receiver. I just think Garrett Wilson is the more complete wide receiver, where JSN is, you pretty much have to play him in the slot. Where Garrett, I think he can move around more, so I think he's more versatile than JSN is. And we've seen Garrett be able to do it with terrible quarterback play.
Oh yeah,
JSN has
yeah.
had Geno, so we don't really know. I mean, it's Geno, so I don't want to say he's had the greatest quarterback play, but it's been much better than what we've gotten in New York. So I do think Garrett is a overall better wide receiver. I'm not going to act like he's way better, but I think he is better. But I would, if I was drafting in a startup right now, I would probably look to draft JSN before Garrett Wilson at this point.
I will say the only thing I disagree with your assessment is saying that you have to play JSN in the slot. I don't think you have to. I think that is a scheme thing for Seattle last year, and it primarily might have something to do with DK. With DK gone, we might see him move around more.
I think it's more like a Chris Godwin situation where I'm sure he could do it and be okay. It's just
but his most effective,
strength.
His
Where
most effective
Garrett
might be from
Wilson
the slot, sure.
Strength could be on the outside, could be from the slot, could be from the back. Like, I think you just can move Garrett Wilson much better, just because I think he's more of a complete.
We have a comment going back to Damian Hernandez. Thank you for tuning in with us real quick, going back to the Fields conversation. He said, Fields gotten better in those 6 games with the Steelers. Hell, you could say he played better than Russ and Rodgers. The only thing that I will say on the flip side of this, as far as Fields was concerned, was he definitely got the raw deal in Pittsburgh. That was an Arthur Smith thing for sure. However, Russ did come in and kind of light the world on fire when he first came in. It died out real fast, though. I mean, what was it, like 3 games that he had there looked real good, and then when Pickens couldn't bail him out as much, or when Pickens got hurt, it went downhill fast. Yep. So I would agree with that assessment, Damian. Outside of maybe like a 3-game window, that Fields definitely played better than Russ overall. I would absolutely say that.
Partially to the trade and the draft pick compensation. I think that's played a huge part of why Fields. If it wasn't for that, I think Fields probably would have played longer. Maybe not the whole season, but I think he would have played longer. Eli, JSN, Garrett Wilson.
JSN.
Yep. So
I just think Garrett's uncertainty is my biggest issue right now. It's just too much uncertainty.
See, for me, him leaving makes me more excited than. And I could care less where he goes.
But I understand that. And Garrett Wilson's a talent that I don't think it necessarily matters where he goes. It's just, if he goes from the Jets to a similar situation, are you overly that much more excited? Like, that's my point. Like, if he goes to a team that's got more stability and a better front office and got like a decent coaching staff, sure, I can understand that. It's just that if he goes to a similar situation, are you really going to be overly excited about it? That's my point.
How many situations are similar? I can think of one off the top of my head.
I could tell you
Cleveland. Go to Jacksonville.
I could tell you Carolina.
I would be okay with Jacksonville. Carolina would be okay with right now.
Well, I don't know. I think the upswing, yes. I mean, it looks okay, but I don't know if I would necessarily trust it. It's David Tepper still.
I understand that, but
they can start 1-4, and the next thing you know, he's firing everybody under the sun. And
hey, we would know that before Garrett Wilson has to get to that point. We already would know that. So
that's my point. Though, is if he goes to Carolina, though, if he goes to
why would you do that next year though? You're not. If you see the same thing, you're not going to go to Carolina to do the same thing.
I mean, if they pay you out the ass and you have the best offer on the table, you're going to Carolina.
So will the Jets. I mean, like you said, you don't think that he would take the money from the Jets.
It's not an indictment against Garrett. I love Garrett Wilson. I love Garrett Wilson. It's just the uncertainty for me. I just like JS. I like players that stay in a very similar situation with stability, because I think that's where they thrive, especially high guys. high quality
Totally agree
guys,
with
and
that.
that's what I have with JSN. It's just Garrett. I think will be fine as long as he doesn't go to another meddling team like the Jets. That's essentially where I'm going with it. Those meddling kids.
Those meddling kids. All right, let's talk a little bit about the running backs because boy was that underwhelming of a running back
What are
free
you talking
agency.
about? This was the best running back free agency class I've ever seen.
Yeah, Kenneth Gainwell going to the Steelers really got you hyped up.
Got my
There's
juices
Jones.
flowing. Ty Johnson re-signing with Buffalo got my juices flowing. Yeah,
Yeah, that made me super happy.
I know. And Damian Hernandez he said he wouldn't mind
No,
JSN going to
no,
Chicago
no.
as an upgrade over Keenan Allen. I mean, it would be an upgrade over Keenan
Yeah.
Allen, but
Yes,
I
but
don't like that marriage from a fantasy perspective at all.
No,
So
too,
don't ruin
too,
him.
Yeah, that's
don't ruin him.
too many
Damian,
mouths in that offense.
Damian, if you're a Chicago fan, I apologize ahead of time.
All right, so we had Najee Harris 1 year deal to the Chargers, and we had Javonte on a 1 year deal to the Javonte Williams on a 1 year deal to the Cowboys. Those are probably the two top free agent running backs on the market. Both only get 1 year deals. Very different in money, though. I really don't understand. Could be 9 million for Najee and only like 3 for Javonte, where I would probably myself would have given Javonte more money. He's younger, but to each their own. Does this impact either one of those teams drafting a running back? Let's start there.
If we're specifically going to looking at a
Hold
Dallas,
on, if impact one of those teams drafting a running back in the top 3 rounds. Let me
Okay.
caveat that because the Chargers will take running backs for days late. That's just how they are.
I wonder why.
Early, yeah. Well, early. So let's.
I think it will deter Dallas, and first and foremost, I don't think Genty's going to get to Dallas. So if they were targeting him, I don't think they're going to. The only guy that I'm a little bit worried that they may go after would be Omari and Hampton, who's been climbing up boards, because I feel that he's a better Javonte. So that would be my only concern from a standpoint of owning Javonte. But I don't know if the 1 year deal at $3 million makes me believe that Dallas is kind of saying, here's a prove it deal. We're going to give you the chance. That's the one thing I like about both these deals is they're both 1 year deals. And it makes me believe it's like hey, go prove yourself so we can extend you in the offseason type of situation. The Chargers with a little bit more money makes me a little more of like, we're doing this more for your age side of things than it is really like a prove it deal. But for Javonte at 1 year, the $3 million is a little low, but I think that's his thought process as well. I'm going to a situation where I have a chance to be the guy to prove myself. So I hope that both those deals deter both those teams from drafting somebody in the first 3 rounds. Dallas would be the only spot that I could see it happening, primarily because Rico Daddle is gone. So they don't really have anybody behind Javonte if Javonte doesn't work out.
Right, 100%. I think they will draft somebody like most teams do anyway.
I mean in the first 3 rounds though, as a guy to bring in and be like, hey, like we want to have that. The Chargers I could understand not so much in that sense because Greg Roman's going to find guys that are going to fit his system, and there's still a chance J.K. Dobbins could come back. So, like
Eli,
he's going to find guys to fit his system, basically.
There's going to be a lot of touches for the running backs in Los Angeles because it's hardball. But give me Javonte because I like Javonte, and I would love to see Javonte get that job.
So you would prefer Javonte this season?
Yes.
I mean, for Najee, we might be on a year-to-year basis at this point, but who knows?
Yeah, give me Javonte.
Michael, who do you think has a better fantasy year this year, Javonte or Najee?
Najee.
You think
I
Najee does?
Yeah, I don't like the Dallas coaching, all the
Well,
coaching changes that they've made, and some questionable decisions down there. They haven't really done a lot to improve the team overall. They just had another offensive lineman retire on them, so like I love Javante, and the situation's good as far as opportunity is concerned, but as far as a team standpoint to actually help him be fantasy relevant, I really think it's going to be a struggle bus for them on offense, especially in the run game.
It's tough because Javante, I think, could see a lot of pass catching with Dallas,
Sure.
but I agree that offensive line is such now a question mark where it was such a strength. You know, last year, if you said the same thing, I would want Javante easily because I could see him getting good rushing yards and catching a lot of passes. But yeah, that offense is in such a flux at this point. It's really hard to know what that's going to look like.
And I'll be even further honest with you. Najee could end up being like a Joe Mixon for the Chargers. You know what Mixon did for Houston last year, or Aaron Jones did for Minnesota, like, or Josh Jacobs even for Green Bay. Like really, like last year's class was deep, but it showed that a lot of these guys that are leaving teams that they've been with, a change of scenery could be good for them if they find a team that really wants to use them. And Greg Roman has a guy finally, I think, in Najee Harris that can kind of do a little bit of both what J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards have done for him for years between Baltimore and San Diego, or sorry, Los Angeles last year. So I'm not going to lie. I think that Najee just is going to a better fit overall, whereas Javante is kind of starting fresh completely, and we don't really know what to expect from that offense. So
Yeah, it stinks for Javante. What were Dak's words?
I don't remember what Dak's words were. I'm assuming, I think he said something about winning a Super Bowl or coming for a Super Bowl in the next couple of years, maybe. I don't know if that's what he's referring to. Micah Parsons said similar to the same thing, and Dallas has signed like 4 people. So
I saw something the other day where Dallas hasn't signed a single free agent for more than, I think it's $6 million since was it Greg Hardy, that defensive end that did that
Yeah.
crazy stuff. Since that guy, they haven't signed a single outside free agent to more than $6 million a season. Yeah. So,
crazy.
all right, Josh Palmer. This is our last free agent because I'm going to be honest, there is not much else out there. I mean, some great offensive line moves and defensive stuff and that stuff for teams, but for fantasy and looking at the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, throwing Josh Palmer in here was a bit of a stretch, to be honest. So,
Come on, you guys are so
I
sleeping
like
on
Josh
Palmer.
Palmer.
Sleeping
We'll
on
see.
Palmer.
We'll see. I mean, but he did have some chances in LA, and so we'll see if it was an LA thing or a Palmer thing. Oh yeah, that's funny. that's talk about talking out your rear end. All
Yeah,
right. So
Stack's
Michael,
life.
Josh Palmer, a buy or a sell?
Buy. I'm buying. I'm buying it because A, he's going to be fairly cheap, and B, I'm buying because he's in a situation in Buffalo where they have not brought back Amari Cooper. Mac Hollins was there last year. He is gone. Curtis Samuel's your only position that you're fighting with. Khalil Shakir is there. And regardless of whatever people may want to say about Palmer with LA,
Hold on. Are you just totally forgetting your Keon Coleman?
no, Keon Coleman is a different type of wide receiver there. But
so is Curtis Samuel.
Well, but I'm talking about from a standpoint of like Shakir can move inside now because Palmer can play outside. Yeah. He did in LA, and when he had an opportunity in LA, he outshined most of the guys that were in front of him. Like he played really, really well when he had an opportunity and chance to be there, to be the guy. when Quentin Jefferson went down a couple of years ago, and when Keenan Allen went down before he went to Chicago, Palmer had like a 4 or 5 game stretch where he had showed that he could do it. And people just seem to forget that Palmer, when he was the guy, I mean, it might have been a volume based thing for all I know, but when he had the opportunity to be the guy, he showed up for Herbert when he was there. Now, I like him in Buffalo because Buffalo spreads the ball around. Josh Allen does a really good job, and there's still questions around Keon Coleman. I think Coleman's going to be okay.
I understand. You just left him off. You named
No.
every other wide receiver there and just
Well,
didn't mention him.
I was thinking more along the standpoints of who Palmer I think is going to affect the most, and Samuel obsolete, and Shakir can move inside to play in the slot now. Now Shakir will probably still be the number one guy because he has the trust and the rapport there. But I think Palmer could do some really good things. So I want to buy because I think that if one of those guys if Coleman struggles again to show up in games, Palmer is going to start building that trust with Josh Allen, and Buffalo can now spread the ball around a little bit more. So I'll buy because it's going to be cheap, and you could probably use them as a spot start if you need to.
All right, Eli.
I'm
If you owned them, are you looking to sell?
holding.
Hoping you're just gonna.
Well, I mean, if I own him,
I have Josh Palmer on a fair number of rosters. So.
Yeah, if I own him, I would sell him. But I mean, if I'm looking to, like, I feel like if you're looking for a spot start guy or a guy that could fill out your roster for depth, I think Palmer is a perfect guy for that.
Yeah, you're saying buy because you think there's a dip. That means I wouldn't. If I own him, not selling because if there's a dip,
Right,
I'm not
okay,
getting
so
what
that's
I believe out of him.
That's fair. That's fair.
So that Eli comes from a different perspective where I don't think he's as high as you are. So I was wondering, if you own him, would you try to sell him? But no, because you don't think you're going to get the value. If you don't own him, are you actively looking to bring him on a team you don't have him on, thinking you could maybe get, like Michael said, maybe some starts out of him if you get him cheap, like a late third round pick if you're a contending team?
Yeah.
That's
make a trade for him.
A second round would probably be too much. Or would you? No seconds. It'd have to be somewhere in the third.
I think a late third, early fourth. I mean, I think a third in general is pretty fair. I just don't know if I would do like a top 3 third, but I think a third round's pretty fair for him.
I mean, this draft should have some depth to it. Not as much at the quarterback this year as previous, but there's a good amount of running backs that should have
the running backs, and there's some pretty nice tier 2, tier 3 wide receivers that could break.
That's what I mean. So it should get you. You should get into probably the mid second with still feeling semi good about prospects, and then we'll start to see how things shake out. Obviously, with the draft.
The only thing well, we'll get to that. The only thing that I would think of with Palmer is I think you'd have to weigh is similarly, like, not necessarily that I'm high on Palmer. I might be higher than most people on Palmer, but you have to weigh, is Palmer going to give you more than whatever you may get in round 3? Like that's where you have to look. Like, you have to really look at the board and see who's going to be there at round 3 and be like, Palmer in a high-powered offense like Buffalo, does he give more points than the guy that I may get to this point? So that, in the third round. So that would be the way you'd have to tackle this thought process, in my opinion. So,
and to me, I think this was a better NFL move in the sense that Palmer is probably a better Gabe Davis than Gabe Davis is. And I also think you get more flexibility because Khalil and Palmer could both slide in and out. So if you can move your formation around a little bit more, because I don't think Palmer has to be an outside wide receiver and things like that.
Shout out to Athletes Forum Podcast. Make sure you go follow and like his channel, subscribe to him. That's my boy Jamal. He's my ELF brother from another mother, former Maine boy, even though he's a Gator. And He's been out down in Florida, but he said the RB class is legendary. He likes Omari and Hampton more than Ashton Genty, which leads us perfect into our segue for Mark.
Well, and I think some people are going to read that and think it's some crazy hot take that really is not. I mean, they're not as far apart as people want to act like they are. I know Genty had a great season and he's a really good running back, but I think Omarion might just be a better complete running back in a NFL sense.
But on the flip side of that too, I think Ashton, because of Ashton having such a great year, it overshadowed what Omarion actually did in North Carolina last year.
Well, and I mean, the North Carolina wasn't a good team, so he didn't get the hype there. North Carolina also didn't have their original starting quarterback, and the guy who came in for him was pretty bad. So it was really the Omarion Hampton show, and that's with teams loading the box upon him because the quarterback was really bad.
Yeah.
Well, before we get into the running backs, we're going to talk a little tight end.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait. I'm so excited about this.
Because the only relevant-ish tight end to be on the free agent market signed to a pretty good landing spot for him in a sense of fantasy numbers. Evan Ingram signed with the Denver Broncos. Denver was a team that a lot of people talked about drafting a Colston Loveland or a Tyler Warren if Tyler Warren were to fall that far or they trade up, whatever. So you believe that they would still go first round. Not that they'll draft a tight end, but they'll draft one in the first round. Yep. You think that's the higher probability, Eli?
I do.
You think they still signing Ingram to a 2-year deal? You think they still go first round tight end?
No.
So I kind of agree with Eli. I could see them pivot to a running back instead, Michael, depending on where these running backs go and who's there at that spot.
So running back, I think, was always on the table for Denver. And I still think that running back could be on the table for Denver. This is me a little bit fence riding again. However, I think Bo Nix and this Denver offense needs to give him a difference maker on that offense in the passing game. Right? Like, think about it. Cortland Sutton played well. Devon Vele is Devon Vele. Marvin Mims had a few good show outs. Troy Franklin didn't do anything. They don't have a true difference maker in this passing game. And if they truly want to find a way to elevate this offense, they may not have a choice but to run the old Sean Payton New Orleans Saints days where Ingram is more of your overall tight end and they use the rookie as a more pass catching tight end to free things up for Bo Nix. And you also have Evan Ingram who has pass catching ability. So you're going to put two guys that can mismatch against linebackers. And if you're in a 12 personnel, it could work out well for Bo Nix in this case until they can get a difference maker on the outside. The only thing that I think could throw in a wrench into any of this is if they draft Matthew Golden if he happens to be there.
Okay,
but they need a passing. Somebody in the passing game that is a legit weapon. I like Evan Ingram, but I don't think he's a legit difference maker in that passing game. So unless
you think Colston Loveland could be that?
Not so much Colston Loveland as much as Tyler Warren.
I don't think unless they're trading up, I don't think Tyler Warren's getting into there.
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on how you look at it from a perspective. But I'm looking at it more from a Tyler Warren situation.
Mm.
If Warren's not there, then I could see them go running back. But
could you see them trade up for Warren? Because I really don't think he's going to get.
I think it would depend. So Denver's at 21. So if Warren
20 or 21, something like that.
if Warren gets to like 14 or 15, I could see them trading up a few spots to go get him. Sure,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right. Eli, before we get into the comments from that we got, running back or tight end for Denver, which is the higher probability for them at this point?
Running back. Go running back.
Now let's say Genty and Hampton are both off the board. Do you see the possibility where let's say Genty and Hampton are off the board, Loveland and Warren are off the board. Okay. Now they could be looking at a Judkins or a Henderson, depending on who they like more, or an Emeka Egbuka. Who would you who there? We'll go to the three Ohio State boys.
Oh, they take Egbuka there.
You think so?
Well, Henderson's been flying up boards, but I think in that spot, if you have Egbuka staring at you in the face and your top 2 guys or top 4 guys in this case are off the board, you don't reach for a position in that spot. And Henderson would be a reach compared to Egbuka in that spot. As much as I love Henderson, he would be a reach. Junkins, I don't even know if he's even considered a day 1 guy. So that would really be a reach at that point. But
I think after his combine is measurable, I think he started to move himself.
But I still think he's a day 2 guy though, second round.
Oh, I think that's. I mean, let's be honest. Most running backs usually are. Let's be real. Jonathan Taylor was technically a day 2 guy.
Yeah.
It's just, is this a scenario where if running backs start going fast, do they go faster or do they then slow down because everybody's like, well, I'll grab the guy who's similar to that guy. Like so. Before we get into that, though, that comes to a later question. Eli, if it's between Loveland, Golden, Egbuka, or Hampton, who do you think Denver takes?
So basically, Ashton Genty's off the board.
Genty's off the board. Warren's off the board. Tet, I mean, I would have Tet ahead of those wide receivers personally. I'm not counting Travis Hunter.
He's not a receiver.
So Golden, Genty, who else?
Golden, Hampton, Egbuka, or Loveland. Who
option?
Golden is an option, yes. I mean, I personally would still have Egbuka ahead of Golden right now. But I could see either way.
I don't think NFL teams see it that way, though.
I think
NFL teams see Golden as the first receiver, even, to be honest with you.
They see him as the golden child?
They do. Golden crisp, baby.
I'm gonna go Golden.
You got your Golden. For our comments over there.
This was in reference to Evan Ingram signing with Denver. He said he might put up Jimmy G numbers. This was us talking about the running back situation with Denver with Javonte. This is him talking about the teens as the sweet spot for tight end, which I agree with. Then he meant Golden here that we were just talking about. And then he just said that Golden is in play for the Jets at 7. Jamal, I think that he could be in play for the Jets because I think the Jets are not done at the receiver spot per se. But
I think it'd be a terrible decision, though.
I don't think it would be a great decision there, but I think he is in play. I agree with you.
I mean, anything's, but he's saying he would take, I think, Egbuka over.
Golden. No, he was saying Golden over Egbuka. He said Egbuka, I think, and then he said sorry, Golden is.
I thought he was saying like sorry to Golden, like I'm not picking him. All right, so let's talk about running.
No.
Let's talk about running backs in the first round. I'll give you some over-unders for running backs, quarterbacks, and wide receivers. I'm going to set the line at 3.5 running backs in the first round only. Go over, under.
Under.
Both think we're going to be at the three mark.
I think that we will be. I think that we'll probably be at the 2 mark.
Do you think?
I think we'll be at the
you
2
don't
mark, but
think-
however, no. I think, however, that day 2, the first like 5 or 6 picks, we could see multiple running backs inside that window.
Okay. Wide receiver.
I just think it's too deep of a defensive line class.
I mean, we all know how teams usually feel about running backs, and now it's like Saquon is making them go, well, maybe we should think about running backs, and this draft class
Saquon
is
and
good, so
Henry,
maybe we should think about this draft class, and then like so just trying to see, could we see somebody sneak up in there in that late back of the first of they trying to get ahead of some of those early second round teams.
Trevion Henderson with a trade up, I could see maybe falling between 29 and 32, but I think it's more likely that we'll see a day 2 trade up for a guy like Henderson and Caleb Johnson maybe. So
I'll see. I personally would take Judkins over Caleb Johnson.
I mean Junkins too. I mean they're all in that same area. So I mean you could say Junkins too. I mean it's fine. I don't disagree with that.
Wide receivers. I'm going to put it at 4.5.
Are you counting Hunter as a receiver?
For this, I was, yes.
For
I
this,
think
you
I was.
were.
Hold on. Let me make sure I was. This one I did count him as a receiver. Yes.
You did? Over.
Yeah. Over.
Over.
4.5.
4.5. So that means you're thinking of a Luther Burden being the 5th guy? Michael?
Burden's absolutely going to be a first round pick.
So you don't think Ibuka is, or
Ibuka is going to be a first round pick.
Golden?
First round pick.
Tet?
First round pick.
Yeah, okay. So that's your 5 then. You just said it very confidently, like you had more than those guys.
I think we could see 6.
Who's your 6th one?
Trey Harris.
I was saying that's where you can get into there's so many guys you could see doing it, but that's what I was curious.
Yeah.
For yours.
Trey Harris, and I could see
over.
a team take a shot on Restrepo, too.
4 in the top 18 is interesting.
Yeah, 4 in the top 18 is very interesting, Jamal.
Because I could also see it go the exact opposite way, where they start sliding if some of those early teams don't grab them.
I saw the NBC, the last NBC mock that I saw didn't even have the first receiver, if you're not including Hunter.
So 22?
At 21, and that was.
I think I saw that same one. I was like, what is going on here?
Golden. Yep.
Yeah. Ted, I think, went like 3 picks later or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I mean. So like 4 in the top 18, that's a interesting.
I'll be honest though, with this receiving class, 4 inside the top 18 is not really crazy. If you're including Hunter as a receiver, that is not crazy. That is not crazy to me.
Yeah, I think that's the noise I make with Eli there too.
But let me tell you the reason why I don't think that's crazy. And I don't think it's crazy is because after Burden, how far is that drop off for you? That's what I mean. Would you take a look at edge and defensive end or defensive line, and you take a look at those top guys? I mean, Abdul Carter's on a planet of his own, but if you take a look at everything after that, I don't think the drop off is as steep as the wide receiver spot. So some of those teams that are targeting wide receiver may not want to wait till day 2, because if they have those guys facing them looking at them in the face, they may be tempted to go, he is a difference maker, let me go get him.
So
like that's the thing. Oh, Isaiah Bond was the other guy I was thinking of that could possibly slide into the first round at the end. Not Restrepo, sorry. But
you said Trey Harris.
I said Trey Harris, and then I said possibly Restrepo, but I meant Isaiah Bond. Yeah. But that's why I don't think it's necessarily crazy. I don't think it's going to happen, but I don't think it's a crazy a comment by Jamal at all there.
I mean, with the NFL, nothing is crazy. Let's start there.
I mean, we had 15 offensive players before first defense, or 14 offensive players before a defensive player was taken last year.
All right, Eli. So who would be right now your sixth wide receiver to slide into the first round? I think we're all pretty safe on Hunter, Tet, Egbuka, Golden, and Burden as 5. Is that safe to say for you two, Eli? Are those kind of the 5?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the group that I expect to see there. With Green Bay hopefully taking one of them.
Green Bay doesn't take first round wide receivers, so stop holding your breath.
Can you see?
Hey, let me hope, okay? Let me.
Savion Williams, Jaden Higgins, Trey Harris, Jalen Noel, any who
I can see somebody like Bond, McMillan, Golden. Okay, we're counting Hunter, right?
Yes.
So McMillan, Golden, Burden, Egbuka. Okay, so Trey Harris, because we're counting Hunter. Trey Harris moves up.
Yeah,
I think
Trey is a dark horse to go in the late first. Him and Bond are the 2 dark horses, I think.
Let's look at the top 18 a little bit and see if we can slot 4 of them in for sure. Now, Travis Hunter, we think will be one of them. So that you've already got one inside the top 18 because he's going to go for his versatility in general, and people think he's this.
So
God. So I don't think between Tennessee, Cleveland, and New York they would take anybody but Hunter. Okay, we agree there. Eli, agree with that? New England. Can we see New England take one? Okay, so there's 2. Jacksonville. To me, it's a no. I think they'll go defense for sure. The Raiders.
That's one that I'm intrigued.
Okay. I think they're likely going to go running back with Genty, but I think that they could go wide receiver there.
As long as you think it's a real possibility,
yeah,
I'm fine with it. Carolina. Okay,
I don't think they should, but there's a good possibility.
Yeah. I skipped the Jets. I'm assuming you would consider the Jets. Again, I don't, but the Saints I don't.
New Orleans.
No,
the Bears I don't.
Not for the Bears.
The Niners I don't.
No. They got Juwan Jennings. They don't need.
I don't because of the Niners because I think they have so many other holes to fill that they are going to.
Yeah, I'm going to say no to San Francisco too. It's not very likely. I'm going to say.
I would say no to the Cowboys.
I say no to Dallas.
Depends a little bit for me, but yeah.
I would say no to Miami.
Yeah, no to Miami.
And I would say no to Indy.
Yeah, I don't think Indy would either. So.
But I mean, so you know, New England, Las Vegas, New York, Carolina are your 4 for the other 3 guys. Those.
With New England, I think it's going to be if Hunter's available, they'll take Hunter, but I don't think they'll take a receiver if it's not Hunter. So if we're including
you don't think
Hunter,
they would?
No, I don't think so. Because
we can include Hunter because there's no guarantee he goes in the top 3 because if a quarterback slots in, Abdul, things could happen otherwise. I could see him being at 4. So
that's the reason. That's the reason why I would say Hunter, because if Abdul Carter goes inside one of those first 3 picks and they don't go quarterback, I could see New England taking Abdul Carter. So it's either going to be Hunter or Carter for me at 4. Like,
I mean, there's no guarantee they have either one of those guys. So if those were both gone, because both could be gone.
I'm under the assumption there's going to be 2 quarterbacks going in the first 2 picks.
Oh, you're still there. I'm not.
I'm absolutely there. Ward is definitely going to Tennessee.
I agree with that. I'm not saying he's going to Tennessee, but I think he goes in the top 3.
I think Cleveland signing Myles Garrett takes them out of the Abdul Carter situation. So I think it's possible that Cleveland could still go quarterback, but it's not a positive. The problem is the Giants at 3. They're waiting on Aaron Rodgers for some reason because he's their top choice. If they sign Russ, are they going to be comfortable with Russ. I feel like Russ is just kind of like, oh, we'll just take what's best of left over. And I think they're still going to draft a quarterback, whether that's Jackson Dart or Shadur. Probably Dart, I would say at 3, believe it or not.
All right, let's
So-
finish with the wide receivers here because we can get to the
So-
quarterbacks in a moment. But you're still New England, Vegas, Jets, Panthers. Those are the main top
Yeah.
14 teams that could go
So
wide
we're in the
receiver.
top 10.
They are. You're right.
Those are the top 4 teams, and I think there's several other questionable ones that could take a receiver. Like, I don't think the Saints need a receiver, but there's a possibility they maybe do something dumb and draft a receiver. But yes, like, I completely
And San
agree.
Francisco, you were kind of a little iffy on. So that's
The only
another
reason
one
why
of
the only reason why I'm a little bit iffy on him is because even though they took Pearsall in the first round last year, is he really that much of a difference maker? And with them going through this purge, they may want to try to get a guy that is a difference maker that they could get on a rookie contract. So I'm kind of on the fence with them. I don't think it's the right move, but I could see them taking a receiver.
Okay. Now, even getting all those, I still think that makes it hard for 4 because all it takes is for 2 of them not to, and then
No, oh, correct.
So-
No, for sure.
so I think that's
Absolutely.
what makes that there. All right, let's talk about those quarterbacks. So I set the over under at 2.5.
I say over. I think we're going to get 3.
I do think we'll get 3, but I also see a world where we get the 2022 draft class, I believe it was again.
The only reason why I think we're going to get 3 is because I think between the media and nepotism basically is going to keep Shadur in the first round. And I think Dart has done more than enough, and his tape is actually a lot better than people realize, to be a first round pick. And you still have to remember, between Tennessee, the Giants, Pittsburgh, and Cleveland, like, and really realistically speaking, the Raiders, possibly
So-
Seattle, like, Seattle won't go first round pick, but like the Raiders possibly.
Carolina.
There's a lot of quarterbacks there's a lot of teams that have quarterbacking question marks. So they may look at it and go, this may be the time for me to take somebody. I don't think this is the class to do it, but it's the NFL. You never know. I mean, Daniel Jones was, pick
Top
6.
7.
So,
Um,
you know,
The reason I set it at 2.5 was because it's really hard to find the 4th guy in general. So it's really hard for me to see a 4th guy slide in.
yeah, for sure.
Because I couldn't tell you right now who that could be. Eli, 2.5. Where you at with that? You think we get the
2.5.
over?
I go over.
I
And
I think Jackson
you
Dart-
could see Milrose slide in.
So you think it could be 4, or you don't? You think Miller over Dart?
No, I think Milrow would be the 4th.
The 4th
Potential.
guy, yeah. So
If Milrose the
don't-
4th, it's going to be a Teddy Bridgewater situation where it's a last second trade at pick 32.
Yeah, so I think that's what we're all thinking in general with that, because I don't think anybody down there is going to take him. But I don't agree that Dart will go anywhere near the top 3, because I don't know that he'll get anywhere near the top 10.
He may not. I mean, it's very possible he may not. But I'm at the same time at the same spot where I don't think Shadur Sanders might go top 10. So, like,
I could see Sanders still going top 10 for the same thing you said before. I could see Vegas still taking him.
Sanders to the Browns.
I mean, it's the Browns. They can do absolutely anything for all freaking now. I don't think it takes them out of a dual Carter, though, to be fair, because I think it's a perfect tandem for them. And Carter can play kind of like Micah Parsons, because
That's
he was
fair.
a stand-up linebacker before he moved over to the edge this season. So I think it gives them flexibility in that sense. I think what's going to happen is people are going to jump into those 20s to grab a quarterback to get that 5th year for a Jackson Dart. That's where I think.
I've just been following the Jackson Dart story through the end of the season, into the pre-draft stuff, into everything else, and everything that I've been seeing with him has always just been him continuing to fly up boards, fly up boards, fly up boards.
I agree.
I've
I just don't think
continued-
somebody's going to take him top 5.
I've continued to see on a pretty consistent basis in the last few weeks him being the second-ranked quarterback ahead of Shedeur in this
I
situation.
agree with that too.
So,
just
I'm
don't see
just
it.
going based off of what I've been seeing with this. So,
I just don't think he's going to go that high.
well, and again, he may not. It's very possible that he may not. But we're also talking some of these guys saying that they would take Tyler Shogue over Shedeur Sanders at this point. So, like, some of these guys saying that Tyler Shogue looks like he's the most polished quarterback in this class, and he would absolutely take him as a starter in this league. But, like, where was Shogue? What was he, a 4th-round pick before? 5th-round pick, maybe? Like, now all of a sudden,
Quarterbacks always start to
You know
fly
what I
up,
mean? Like-
and then the draft comes around and start to slide again. I like the Panther as a trade back in for a Jackson Dart. I don't see it, but as a possibility, that's a team that could, I think, do it. I think they like Bryce Young, so I don't think they will.
Yeah,
But
I think Dan Morgan and Dave Canellis is really going to want to give him a legitimate chance and not bring in competition this year. If he struggles again this year, I would say yes. If this was 2026, I would say I could see that. But right now, I just don't see it for Carolina.
I agree. This isn't the year to do it the quarterback, but I think Jackson Dart is
I could see it
good.
with the Colts.
I mean, yeah, sure.
I could see it with the Colts.
I just think there's going to be a team that goes, well, we're probably not going to be in on guys next year because we're probably we're hoping to be a little bit better than, and we want to get Dart in now, so next year we don't have to play the rookie game. That's the thinking I'm going to have. Big teams are going to have. Somebody's going to have.
I could see the Colts for sure. I got a question for you. Even if Pittsburgh signs Aaron Rodgers, do they take a quarterback in the first round?
I don't think in the first round. No, I don't think in the first round.
Eli?
No.
Not unless they trade or somebody moves up into their spot and they trade back and they gain some extra picks somehow.
I see
just don't.
I see them taking a quarterback in the first round, especially if Jackson Dart's going is falling as far as you think he's going to. If he gets to Pittsburgh, I think that's their guy.
My pause is if we look at this draft similar to 2022, and they were the Pickett one, I don't know that they'll do it again for that reason.
Oh yeah,
But
that was a wonderful draft.
But I don't know if everybody's looking at that class like the 2022 class, though.
I mean, maybe not. I mean, it's not.
Because
I don't think it's as bad as that class.
Because Pickett was the first quarterback taken in that class. Cam Ward is going to be the first overall pick in this class. So
Sure. It's just getting to be eerily similar to that draft because let's not forget, those guys were pushed up, and then all of a sudden they started to fall. We were all very surprised. Let's not.
Oh, we were.
Oh, we absolutely were. I mean, for sure.
So
without a doubt.
I don't think Cam Ward will fall out. I think the next one could take a huge tumble. Is what
I just think it really depends on the Giants at 3. They're the biggest ones at this point. Cleveland, I think at this point, like while Garrett's signing might be a good pairing with Abdul Carter, I think that because they signed Garrett, they would be more likely to take Travis Hunter over Abdul Carter at 2.
I agree. I think the Giants are going to trade into 1 for Cam Ward because I think Tennessee realizes they could probably get more stuff back and start to rebuild.
I mean, if the Giants are willing to shell out for two spots, then I would. But if I'm Tennessee, I'm not trading that pick unless I get something that's absolutely going to better my team.
Sure. I'm just saying. I think that's what I think will happen.
So So before, do you have any other questions, or are you done?
No, yeah, that's it.
That was it.
So,
I
don't
got
wanna get
one
too
more.
much on
I
the
got
rookies.
one more question. Out of the potential first 5 wide receivers taken that we're talking about, and you can include Hunter in this situation, who do you think is going to make the biggest impact, regardless of where they land?
It's tough because where they land could be a huge
In
thing.
their rookie year or just
In their
overall?
rookie year, the first year out, like the biggest spot, regardless of landing spot. Basically, I'm asking, who do you think has the most talent to be a difference maker, regardless of situation?
Tet.
It's a tough question to think about, isn't it?
Egbuka and McMillan for me.
Those are the two for me
Egbuka.
also. But I lean Tet.
I think Egbuka as well. I really like Ted a lot, though, so I'm not going to be mad about it.
No, his size just I think he could win right off the bat. Where I could see Egbuka kind of take the JSN time frame, maybe and it just you saying it doesn't like take out where they go, that could play a huge impact
I would love.
because
I love, as much as I like Luke McCaffrey. I hope Washington. I would want Washington to take Egbuka in the first round, and I know they're not going to, but
I don't think he gets to you.
I don't.
They
Yeah,
wouldn't. I don't think he
yeah,
gets to you.
that's true. I don't think he would either. But
I think
God,
if he's there, they would probably consider it.
I would fucking absolutely love Egbuka in Washington. Just saying. No doubt.
I mean, I agree. Number 2 and number 3 are sometimes much easier matchups.
Yeah.
But that's where if Tet goes somewhere where he doesn't have to be the number 1 guy, and I think for him that would make him it better because you have less pressure and you are so big you could win your matchups. And I don't think he's one of those big guys that doesn't work.
Now this is interesting. This is an interesting comment by Jamal. And I think Carolina, without a doubt, is very much a spot that we're looking at and going, receiver, or whatever it may be. Adam Thielen's kind of enjoyed a nice little resurgence there in Carolina.
Lots of targets.
Lots of targets. Xavier Legette did not have a good rookie year.
No.
Did not have a good rookie year. However, Xavier Legette has all of the tools to be a legit wide receiver in this class. I mean, in this league. Is wide receiver as much of a priority as we think it is in Carolina? And if you're inside that organization, is it a position that you put in your top 2 positional needs, in your opinion?
No.
Okay.
Offensive line, defensive line should be your top 2.
Okay. I was just curious about it. Like, I know that I'm a little bit higher on Legette. I think Legette will be okay, but it's hard because he didn't have a good rookie year, so I can understand why people are looking at it going,
Even if you don't believe in Legette, I still think you could find a wide receiver in round 2 better than you could find offensive line, defensive line.
Okay, that's fair. What about you, Eli? You think you agree with that assessment when it comes to Carolina?
Yeah. I mean, I am so far out on Bryce Young in general that I don't really want anything to do with that offense.
Even with the when he got his chance the second time last year and looked actually a lot better. No hope, fine. No glimmer.
I'm not a big. I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of Bryce Young at this point.
Oh, I mean, Mark and I weren't real big fans of him coming out, but I think there's at least a little glimmer of hope down there. But we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is his make or break year for him.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like without a doubt, for sure.
And I mean, to be fair to Eli, he did not have a 300-yard passing game even down that stretch.
Right, but the aesthetics were much better.
Yeah, well, I think sure. the team was.
You took care of the ball better. They played.
Yeah, they played better. And
the aesthetics across the board were better.
Spread a lot.
Yeah.
But I have hope. It's tempered a little bit because
Oh yeah, no,
I didn't
temporary.
like Bryce Young, so
Definitely
that's what
tempered.
tempers my. If I was a Bryce Young fan, I
Absolutely.
would be ecstatic right now.
Yeah, no.
But I wasn't. So I mean, I buy low on him right now because I don't think people are.
Right. Oh yeah, for sure.
But I'm still doing it with the idea that he's replaceable very easily.
Oh yeah. Like I said, if they start out 1-4, Young could easily be on the bench, and we could have the red rifle up there again. So like,
He's no Jawan Jennings. That's for sure.
or Jake Ferguson,
Or Ferguson. I mean,
or pick
if you
or fourth round pick.
if you took out the fourth round pick of that trade and you put Bryce Young in there,
It's still not an accept.
no, it's not even
No, it's
close.
not. No, Mark was going to try to go for a joke there, and it was never going to hit. So.
It's just, I mean, I honestly don't know what you could really change in that trade to like make it that much better. Because even if you start adding guys,
Nah.
it's just a hope. Like it's too much.
This isn't even a deep bench league, so I'm
No, it's not.
dropping
You're right.
a player on top of this.
Yeah, I mean, you're essentially going to have to drop 2 because you got that fourth round pick to use also.
There is literally nothing that you can even use as a baseline for a trade there. There's not one piece that you can say,
No.
I will take that guy and
That's
use him as the
horrible.
baseline to form a trade from it.
Well, and let's, because some people are going, well, Jawan Jennings and Ferguson, you could probably do that with. It's a 10-team league, so this is a 10-team league. So unless you have no tight ends, 0, but that's what Ferguson isn't doing that much for you to change it over what Josh Allen is. So neither of those guys is cracking a lineup outside of just having no other tight end.
Exactly.
Jawan Jennings is not making a 10-team league flex unless you are tanking, and in that sense, trade him for a third round pick.
It's
That's garbage.
It's a good one.
That is a good one. That is definitely a good one.
I don't know that I would trade Bryce Young for that package. In this league, with it being a super flex, I don't know that I would trade Bryce Young for that package.
All right, guys.
Tell me I'm wrong.
No, you're not. You're not wrong. Not in the least bit. I'd trade Geno Smith for that package.
I don't know that I would do that. It's still a starting quarterback.
Aiden O'Connell?
Yeah, because he's not a starting quarterback. He's lucky to be the backup.
Yeah, I don't know. Did you have Bryce Young as your 32nd ranked quarterback then? Is that what's happening?
Me?
No, Eli. Is he your 32nd ranked quarterback right
I
now?
could be like 28. Rodgers can be 32.
Russ Rodgers fighting for that 32nd spot between the Giants and the.
There it is. I would trade Rodgers for that package.
I might.
I don't think I would do that either.
I would trade Rodgers for that package because Rodgers is 42. So.
But what are those? What are any of those pieces doing for you?
I mean, who knows? Ferguson might go on and be Brock Bowers next year.
Oh yeah, in his 5th, 6th season. Yeah, for sure.
All right. I'm Michael Washington. He's Mark. Make sure you hit that like button. And Mark Hoxton. He's Eli Manuel. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Follow the Shady Sports Network. Shout out to Sam again for giving us a platform to talk fantasy football, NFL as well. Any final thoughts, words of wisdom, Eli? Maybe? Mark? Words of wisdom?
Happy March Madness.
Happy March
Happy
Madness.
Pie Day tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. Make sure you follow. Oh yes, it is. Make sure you follow Athletes Forum podcast over there on YouTube and other I don't know where else he is as far as like social media is concerned, but I'm pretty sure that I know he's on X for sure. But follow him definitely on YouTube and catch his content. Hopefully, he'll be my ELF co-host this year for Summer Showcase, and we can do a little cross for the European League of Football as well. Until then, for Mark, for Eli, I'm Michael. Have a good night.